by reiterating something that Yvka said, which is you need to know your audience. And we all want to see Gwyneth speak at 3 o'clock, right? So be rest assured that we're not going to go over time. I'm going to keep it short and sweet for us all because I want to see that amazing lady speak as well. All right, so what I wanted to show you is that this is my 1-bedroom apartment in Sydney when I started Shoes of Prey. It is filled up with 8 staff members, 600 pairs of shoes, and that's me in the background negotiating the first lease to our first office. The reason I wanted to kick off with showing you this photo is because it doesn't matter in your business how successful, how big, and how amazing things get, or how small and humble your beginnings are. It is your personal resilience, passion, belief in the idea, and bias to action in getting things done that makes a company real. So don't worry if you're sitting in your lounge room or sitting on your couch with an idea. You can grow something great right from there, but it is down to you. Shoes of Prey, I'm going to tell you what we are and what we do in a minute, but I started it in October 2009 with 2 co-founders. We broke even at 2 months. We hit multi-million revenue in under 2 years. To date, we've raised about $27 million, including investors like Nordstrom and some of the biggest VCs out of the West Coast. I have 200 staff. I ship to about 100 countries every single month, and I built my very own factory to make my own shoes, which is why I'm here to talk to you about supply chain today. So, Shoes of Prey, what are we about? We are about confidence in every single size. At Shoes of Prey, you can get your style because we make every pair of shoes one at a time. Adjust to heel height, choose a material color, change the shoe completely, and design exactly what you want. Your size, we do sizes 2.5 through to 15, including half sizes and 4 width adjustments. Always available because we make every single pair on demand. When you click buy on our website, it literally prints out in my factory. Someone picks up that form and goes and makes your pair of shoes and has it in your door in under 2 weeks, no matter where you are in the world. So ladies, think about this one to yourself. What's your shoe size? Okay, I got your back and your feet. So the thing about this is, and you kind of shouted it out straight away, and I have the same answer, which is, oh, I'm an 8.5, sometimes a 9, sometimes an 8, right? Okay, so the reason that this is a little bit of a challenge is twofold. One, most shoe companies, we all have different size lasts. Does anyone know what a last is? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to be this is not a wonderful visual, but if you got a mannequin and cut her foot off and you had that plastic foot-shaped piece of material, you design shoes around that mold, okay? So everyone has different lasts. So the closer your foot is to the shape of the shoe mold they're using, the closer you are to having a good shoe that fits you well. And there's no global sizing discussion happening in shoes. They're all different. So that's one reason. The other reason is mass manufacturing. Both of these amazing ladies who have gone before me speaking have talked about the problem of inventory in the world, particularly in retail. And if you're going to start your own business and sell stuff to people, you will come up against this as well. So in mass manufacturing, one of the tricky things is that you go to a company and you say to them, hey, I'd like to be a shoe company and I'd like you to make my shoes. And they will say to you, great, I will sell you red stiletto heels and you have to order 10,000 pairs of them. And that's your minimum order quantity. And I'll deliver them to you in 7 months' time. And that gets really tricky because all of a sudden you have spent all of this money on your inventory that's sitting in the storeroom and you're sweating about, oh my God, are people going to want to buy red stilettos? Are they going to want to buy them in 7 months' time? And you have all of this risk. If you don't sell that stock, you need to discount it down to sell it. And on the other hand, if that red stiletto sells really well and you sell out of it, I know that's kind of cool, but chances are you could have made more sales if you had more inventory hanging in your warehouse. So on-demand manufacturing is something that, because you have to order all this inventory, frequently shoe companies will only give you the option to choose from size 5 through to 11, no half sizes, no width adjustments, because they can't afford to offer all of the sizes that actually exist in shoes. So you've never had the chance to try on shoes that might be your true size. And what we've discovered is, so the peak body for shoe kind of data in the world, had the pleasure or gross pleasure of measuring 20,000 women's feet last year. And they found that 77% of women have a non-standard shoe size. So you're not a size 5, between size 5 and 10, and you're not a standard width. And this is a very underserved $8.7 billion market, which is really exciting. Let's go to the next slide. Now, touching on a few, let's draw the threads together so that we get into supply chain. So I went to manufacturers when I started off Shoes of Prey, and I was like, hi, my name is Jodie. I have this great idea for a shoe company. I'd like you to make my shoes, and I'd like you to make one pair at a time. And I got laughed out of the room. Eventually, I did manage to kind of like share my business plan and get a couple of suppliers on board, and they were making our shoes for us. But this was such a unique business model, this was such a unique idea that none of these mass manufacturers could grow with my business, and none of them could make one pair of shoes at a time in a scalable way. So I had to build my own factory that makes one pair of shoes at a time, scalably, all over the world. Now, this is to serve our direct-to-consumer business, but we have now opened up a business-to-business part of Shoes of Prey, where we now offer to other companies to be able to make their shoes for them so that they can have a minimum order quantity of one pair of shoes, which we develop within 2 to 6 weeks, which is Zara fast. And then we can replenish their stock every 2 weeks so that they never sell out of a product, and equally, they never end up with a product that's not selling, sitting in the storeroom, not knowing what to do with it. Let's go to the next slide. So now that we've got a bit of context of how this exploration and journey on sourcing is going, I want to talk to you a little bit about the things I learnt along the way. Now, ladies, all of this is experience. This stuff does not come out of textbooks. Some of this I hope you never, ever, ever, ever go through. Now, if you are thinking about sourcing something, there are a few key questions you need to ask first. Number one is, are you sourcing a product that already exists? So are you sourcing a television? Just to sell televisions online? Are you sourcing a face cream? Does it already exist and you just want to put it into your suite of brands on your website? If you're going to do that, you know what? You can probably find a supplier online. And that's pretty easy to do. You don't need to do sampling. You just need to make the right connections and negotiate the price to bring that product in. The second thing, are you wanting to sell a product that exists, but that you want to make a modification to it? Maybe you want to put your branding on it. Maybe you want to change the fragrance of it. This kind of thing here might need a little bit more interaction with your supplier and finding the right supplier for you. I personally think that in this case, going to a trade fair is awesome. And there are trade fairs for everything. So if you want to source out of Asia, then Canton Fair is absolutely extraordinary and terrifying. Everyone is there. You can walk through all of the booths, talk to all of the suppliers, and it's a great way to learn about the industry that you're about to enter into and learn about how your product gets made. And you can learn about the parameters of modification. Is it a new invention? Are you crazy like me and wanting to do one pair of shoes at a time at scale? This is going to require you to get on the ground and go and meet people, pitch them your idea, and learn about all of those parameters in detail. So from when I started Shoes of Prey, I had someone with my suppliers, and I built an entire team around that to manage those supplier relationships on the ground before we then went and built our own factory. So it just requires a different level of engagement. So that's the first set of things to consider when it comes to your sourcing part of your supply chain. Secondly, how do I tell if my supplier is actually any good? Now, I've written down a few tricks here because this is going to come in very handy, and I had to learn this by getting on the ground and figuring stuff out. So firstly, you can do sampling. So look, get a product made with them, see what you think. In the sampling process, please be aware, if you are going to place a big order, your sampling should be free or very low charge. Don't get caught with big sampling costs. This one's really cheeky. Go and make an unannounced visit to the supplier that you are thinking about using. Now, ladies, I have done this in Italy, I've done it in China, and honestly, if you're making an unannounced visit, do not even tell the driver the address. Just give them directions to get there, because sometimes there's like an arrangement where the driver will call ahead to speak to the factory, you can't speak the language, they get paid off for giving the warning. So honestly, make a totally unannounced visit. And then when you get there on that unannounced visit, you want to have a look at some little things like how many workers are actually on the factory floor working? How much stuff are they actually shipping out? And have a look at what things are stacked up in their loading bays to be shipped out. What's the condition of the factory? Do the workers look happy? Do they look the right age? Does everything in the factory look clean and safe? So an unannounced visit is a really good way for you to sense check and make sure you are not supporting something in your supply chain that you don't believe in and that you don't want to support. Also, little sense checks. You have to forgive me, I wrote them down because they're so important. So sometimes too, you want to make sure that the person you are speaking to really is the person who runs that factory. So a really simple, easy question. You're walking around the factory doing a tour with this person thinking you might become my supplier. Say, oh, hey, so where's your office? And get them to take you to their office. Because there are instances in which it's actually an agent or someone that manufactures in a different factory, but they don't like their factory, so they take you to their friend's factory that's prettier and nicer than theirs is. So just a simple thing, hey, where's your office? Show me, is a really good question to ask when you're doing that tour. Another one is, if you've already given them an order and you're already working with them, take with you a printout of an order they're making for you and pick maybe 5 of them that are in different stages of production and say, oh, hey, can you just show me this order? And get them to show you where it is on the production line, because sometimes your suppliers are actually outsourcing to another factory down the road. And you want to be sure that you really are dealing with the right person. The last one is talk to the people who are working in the factory and make sure that you really are getting the right discussions there, that you really are in the right situation, and talk to their clients as well. Sometimes the showrooms at the factory where they say, oh, we make shoes for, insert brand name here, call up that brand, because sometimes they've just gone to the store and bought those shoes and put them in the showroom. So you want to make sure you've done a little bit of due diligence. It's not all nasty though, ladies, I promise. These are just some really good ways for you to make sure that you are dealing with the right person and your supplier is what they say they are. Okay, I want to go on to the next slide very, very quickly. I've got 2 minutes to keep my promise to you about going to see Gwyneth, so let's make this happen. Distribution. So getting out there, have a think about local versus global. Are you going to be shipping domestically or are you going to be shipping globally? This needs to align with funny things like merchandising, marketing, and creative. Merchandising, hey, it's a different season in the Southern Hemisphere. So, how are you going to distribute against your merchandising plan? How are you speaking to the people in the other hemispheres? What's going on in those countries that is relevant to them, that is going to affect the way that you distribute? Think about who is my customer and what category am I in? Am I competing in an environment where I need to get product to them within 2 days, which affects the speed of delivery? Tracking, have a look at if when you are looking at your distributors, can you track the product from start to finish? I had an experience where my shoes were being delivered all the way to the country and then they were being handed over to the local postal service who had no tracking number. And so my shoes effectively were lost between hitting the country and getting to the consumer, which was enormously frustrating for me and them. So really talk to your distributors about how tracking is going to work. Import taxes, really nasty surprise for your customer if they receive a notification to say, your shoes are here and you owe me $50. So just be aware of import taxes in different countries. Also make a decision around whether you want to market to countries that may have import taxes that make your shoe unprofitable for those customers as well. And that's where cost of goods sold becomes really important and you're thinking about your distribution. I touched briefly on alignment with the different areas of the business, so merchandising, marketing, and creative. I think there was one more slide, which was the exercise, but do you know what? It's 2:55. So hit me up on Instagram if you want to learn more, just Jodie Fox, and I will help if I can with any questions, so you don't have to learn it the hard way.